So let's take a look at the exercise from the textbook in Chapter 6. It's really important that you understand that I'm wanting you to find any instance of possible defamation. Even if it turns out that it's something we can use, I want to see your thought process so I can give you points for that. Each of these would be graded as 6 points on a quiz. 2 points for indicating that something's potentially defamatory. 1 point for indicating the proper type of defamation. 1 point for indicating the proper defense. And 2 points for indicating the proper action. If these were in a story you were editing, you would then have to do the final step here. So the first one we see indicates that the material we have is part of an official governmental proceeding. That is a trial for a crime. And it says that the person was found guilty of being an accessory after the fact in murder. So therefore, we obviously have a defamation that the type is crime. We can use a defense, though, to allow us to print this. That defense, in this case, would be fair report. Because we have a defense, the action we would take is publish as is. Given that, we don't have to change the edited version at all. Moving on to number 2, here we have an indication that the chief of police is incompetent and also criminal. Notice that sometimes we have more than one type of defamation. Do we have a defense? Well, this isn't coming from an official governmental proceeding, and it's not just someone's opinion. It's actually a factual charge. So in this case, we do not have a defense. The next question we ask is, can we therefore use any of this, or does the whole thing need to be thrown out? Well, in this case, there's nothing in here that's not a factual charge that we cannot prove. So our choice here is just to delete in its entirety. Okay, let's look at number 3 now. It might seem at first that this one could be okay, but then let's look at it carefully, and there's a strong suggestion that this person is engaged in criminal activity, running a drug business. So once again, the type is crime. And do we have a defense on this one? Has this person been charged with a crime? No. Is this just someone's opinion and not a factual charge? No. So again, we don't have a defense. So then we get to the next step, which is, can we use part of this, or do we have to get rid of the whole thing? Well, there's no official proceeding against this person and no indication that what's being said here is true. So we're going to have to dump the whole thing. Now, what about the idea that it's in a quote? So we could say someone said it. Well, attribution, as the chapter says, means nothing. Because if that was the standard, we can publish anything that someone says, then we essentially wouldn't have any defamation laws. Number 4, we see it's testimony taking place in a trial, and it's a strong, serious criminal charge here. So we're back to crime again. Because it's taking place in a trial, it's part of an official governmental proceeding, and so the defense is fair report. Therefore, we can use the entire thing, so publish as is in this one. Number 5, this one's a little trickier. So we're commenting on someone's appearance, and it's maybe, we could say incompetence, saying the person isn't pleasant to look at and can't pronounce words and maybe shouldn't be on TV. So we're going to go with that. Do we have an offense for doing that? A defense for doing that? Well, there's not anything here that would let us use something like fair report. But what about opinion and fair comment? This is something that's not a factual allegation, like the person is drunk on air, but it's just saying they're not the best at what they do. Fair comment and criticism, if you remember from the text, means that anybody who offers their goods or services for public consumption can be criticized as long as we don't make factual charges we can't back up. In this case, that would entirely apply to what's happening. So the defense in this case would indeed be opinion and fair comment. Because we have the defense here, that we can publish this as is. We get to number 6, and this one's a little tricky. The first part of it is fine. She announced her withdrawal from the race. No problem. Second part, though, makes a criminal charge against the opponents. It's not just saying something like they played dirty or something like that. That would be an opinion, but it says they've rigged the election. Well, that's a crime. So we're going to look only at the second part of this for consideration here. And we see crime. Has there been an official charge? No. Can we use opinion and fair comment? No, because it's not an opinion. It's a factual charge. So none. So this is the first one we've had where we can use part of it, but not all of it. So in this case, we can just end the sentence after the word race. And what comes before that is fine. And so if I wanted to, if this were in an edited story you're working on, I would just do that. I'd go back, I'd put a period here and get rid of the rest of it. Number 7, detective. Okay, this sounds official. Told reporters, oh, we have a charge here. Oh, this is sounding pretty good, right? But no. Has there been any official governmental proceeding yet? No, there has not. In fact, this person hasn't even been questioned by police, let alone been charged with anything. There have been real cases like this that lead to big lawsuits against media organizations. So because this is the case here, well, we start with crime. It's not something that's official government proceeding. We can't use that. It's not just an opinion because it is a charge. And so we don't have a defense. And so since we don't have a defense, the action is none, and we're going to delete the whole thing. So this is a good one to ask yourself the question, what if you were Simmons? The police haven't even talked to you yet, and they're floating it out there in the media that you're the criminal here. If you know anything about the Richard Jewell case, then you know how devastating that can be to someone's life and career. So we can't support something like that. So we just want to get rid of this completely. Number 8, let's see, we've got a governor here who has bad ideas, tired ideas. We have another guy or woman who looks to have a lot better ideas here. So yeah, the second part's not a problem. What about the first part where we're saying he served the state well, no problem there, but his ideas are simply tired and he's no match for his challenger? Well, that's an opinion. Different people have different opinions on politicians. And so it's saying that he's not as competent as the other person. And so since it is an opinion and it is a public official, we can use opinion and fair comment. Because of that, the action we have in this one is publish as is. Number 9 starts out fine. The funds for the medical school scholarship come from alumnus William Lee. He donated $1 million to the university last year. Boom, that's all good. But then shortly after, rumors that he is dying of AIDS. So what we have here is sexually transmitted disease, and we have rumors. We don't have an actual finding that he had this disease or still has it. And so we don't really have any defense here. And it's a charge. Unlike the one directly above, it's not just an opinion, it's a charge. So no defense in this one. And the action, therefore, well, as we did earlier, we can just end the sentence after the word year. And if you were editing this in an exercise for class, that's exactly what you do. Finally, number 10. So we're looking here at something, a person's making charges about his neighbors, the Nash family, and saying they're junkies, which would indicate illegal drug use. Who knows what other problems he's referring to. And at first we might look at this and we might think, well, this is in a public meeting, so we're all good, right? Because that would fall under fair report. But one of the requirements of fair report, and I'm just going to put in here, we're looking at crime again. One of the requirements of fair report is that the material needs to be germane to the topic of the meeting. And this is a meeting about zoning laws. It has nothing to do with drug use or anything like that. And so it's not going to be covered by that defense. And so in this case, none for our defense. So can we use any of this? Well, if we work our way backward, we get to the first part that says this person jumped up and said this, but if we're not going to say what they said, well, the whole thing is not usable. So in this case, delete. So this should give you an idea of the range of types of defamation we're going to see, how we respond to those. And again, the critical idea for you to keep in mind going forward with our quizzes is sometimes I'm going to give you things that are going to be fine to publish, but they're still going to have stuff that's not nice to say. I need to see your work to see how you arrived at your decision to publish it in those instances so I can give you credit. For instance, if you looked at number 8 and you just said nothing to worry about here and you didn't fill any of this stuff in, you'd lose 6 points for that. Let me know in our Zoom session what questions you have about these.